Welcome to the Three Padres and a Shepherd podcast, where three North Dakota Lutheran pastors and a real-life shepherd combine serious theology with fun laughter. This is a podcast from the local church and for the local church. However, the local churches of these three pastors do not take any responsibility for the banter, foolery, and assertions that will follow. Welcome to the Three Padres and a Shepherd podcast.
Welcome to Three Padres and a Shepherd. Today we are covering the topic of digital addiction, examining Christian discipline in a digital world. When the world is obsessed with screens and speed and virtual presence, does the church have anything else to say? Does the Christian have any reason not to live with his head buried in a screen? What discipline is needed by today's Christians to live soberly in this often screen-fatigued world? How's it going, guys? Do you have your cell phones all turned off?
No.
All your apps silenced for our digital edition here?
No, I promised to check my phone at least 3 times while we're talking today.
At least 3 times, yeah. We should have had
I'm
us
just
when I was reading
soaking
the
in the
introduction.
irony of staring you guys on a screen while we're talking about this.
Right.
Speaking of screens, I have it on good authority that some poor church in North Dakota was subjected to an episode of Three Padres and a Shepherd as their Bible study when the pastor was on vacation.
Who was that? Was it your church?
No, it was not my church. I would never do that to my people. No, it was Redeemer in, or not a Redeemer, Emmanuel in Grand Forks.
Really?
Yeah, I guess
I
so.
think I heard that, yeah.
I had
Which
a couple
episode was it?
parishioners, the Confession and Absolution one.
Was that a good episode or not?
Keys. None of them are good, if you ask me.
I was going to say, I don't remember that one being worth listening to.
I don't know why we keep doing this, to be frank with you guys. We just can't quit now, you know?
No.
Yeah. But okay, so before our subject, anything surprisingly new or anything adventurous in your guys' life? Bo, what's new with you?
Well, I was just going to say to Bradmar, the only reason I keep coming back to this is to find out what Neuendorf is going to say, what he's going to present us with. So I'm just looking over his shoulder right now, trying to see what he's going to go grab to show us. But no, nothing's new in my life. Nothing's new.
I love our last episode. I had this, there was a comment on YouTube and I think the person, I don't know if they were poking at us or not, but they said, you spent literally 12 minutes talking about absolutely nothing before getting to the content of your episode. I'm like, yes, exactly. In fact, I think that's some people's favorite part of like, what are we going to talk about for the first 10 minutes?
Can you see the viewership metrics, like when they start dropping off? Because I bet you they drop off after the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not that fancy, I don't think so. Yeah. So Neuendorf, what's going on?
There's nothing going on.
Oh, come on.
No.
I'm just chomping at the bit to get to our content.
Man.
Though, I mean,
He showed us this on our text.
Oh, look
my
at this. We're
So
going old school in our franchises
yeah,
today, huh?
if you're asking, about a year ago, I saw that this thing was available for pre-order. And I mean, it has a whole cabin interior and everything. The targeting computer comes out, and it's got landing gear that can fold up, and then lock S foils in attack position.
Oh, what?
Whoa.
Yeah,
For the listeners who aren't watching, you better explain what you have there.
it's an X-wing starfighter.
X-wing.
And it's what, like 2 feet long or something. I was shocked at how big it was when it arrived, and I have to figure out how to tell my wife that I have this dumb thing now.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine this? Like, it's like, if I'm a member of Neuendorf's church and my wife goes, "Where are you going?" I'm going to Pastor Neuendorf's office for confession. Absolutely, yeah, sure you are. You can go play with toys, right?
I've got to find a way to sneak this into my basement at home.
Well, this will be airing in about 2 weeks. So you got 2 weeks to figure that out.
All right.
Do you guys get away with buying the stuff that, like, if I were to buy that stuff, my wife would be very displeased?
Yeah, I buy things like knives, things like
See,
that.
I get guns and
Untucks.
related accessories, but those go into the gun safe that is in the garage. They never actually come into the house.
Oh yeah,
So
I had
fantastic.
to.
Anything else
I
new
have.
with Bo and Bradmar?
I have a new purchase, but I guess you can't quite see it. I should have pulled it up right behind me, but I had to disclose it to the wife when I came home with a Harley Davidson. So
Oh,
yeah.
where's your Harley at? Is it? Can you see it from here?
um,
can you turn the camera? Let's take a look here.
it's back there.
It's
I
a
could
beautiful
wheel it. I
bike.
could wheel it up here.
It's a beautiful, yeah. We both so excited about this here. So it's a beautiful bike. We put it in my garage here and mine it for a day, and I wanted to take it for a spin, but I'd probably ruin it. But Bradmar, what's going on with you? Bo, go wheel it over, okay?
What is going on with me? It is fall, and I'm doing fall stuff. Creep feeding the calves, pulling up garden, pulled the honey supers off the beehives. That's about it. Just fall stuff, teaching confirmation class. So
Yeah, nice.
Oh, you know
my
what?
life
It
is
did
not
occur to
exciting.
me. It occurred to me maybe for posterity, we ought to note that this is being recorded a couple of weeks after the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Oh yeah, yep.
2
So
weeks
just
today.
just to keep time in perspective.
Yeah,
Of course, that's a major thing of global significance.
yeah. We'll be releasing this probably in about a week, so early October. So, yeah. Very good. All right. Well, let's get on to our subject, okay? So to get us started here, let's just talk about this just idea of digitally speaking. How have things changed in your lifetime? So we're all, let's see, I'm 46, Bo is 40, Bradamar, you're in the tail end of your 30s, right?
That's right.
And then Neuendorf, early
43.
40s, 43. Okay, so we're all in kind of the same kind of genre or same generation. So just as far as thinking about digitally speaking, how have things changed in your lifetime?
When I was a child, we would turn on the TV, and it was a big wooden cabinet, really heavy, and we'd turn a knob, and it would be a switch sound, and it'd go poof, and then gradually the picture would fade in, and we had an analog knob that we would switch through channels, and we had like 5 or 6 total channels, and it was a blast.
I remember the TV we had. I was growing up. It was a little bit newer than yours. It actually had buttons on it. That you could push.
Wow.
Yep, and it was big and heavy. And I remember that my dad bought it. I don't remember when he bought it because I don't remember what we had before it. But I remember getting it. And I thought it was so massive, and I think the monitor on my desk is as big as or bigger than that TV is.
Mm-hmm.
But we had 3 channels. We had aerial antenna in rural North Dakota. We had PBS. We had WDAY out of Fargo, which was ABC, and then we had a CBS affiliate. And that was our 4, 6, and 11 out of Fargo, and then the public broadcasting stations. So those are our 4 stations.
6, 10, and 13. Yep.
Yeah. I remember my dad got a TV and it was really top of the line. And when the phone would ring, it would ring on the TV, and you could answer the phone on the TV. And so we had the 3 channels, but then we're up by, in Botno, so we could get the Canadian channels. And I just remember the Canadian channels, they didn't have the same censorship per se as American churches. So they would you'd hear like the S word would be said. And with kids, we would be, oh my goodness. And Dad's like, well, that's the Canadians. It's just the Canadian channel up there. But let's fast forward a little bit. So we had a little bit later on with technology, we had 8-track. I remember as a little kid, they had 8-track. My sisters had that. Then it was cassette tape. And then in high school was CD, right?
Yep.
And then it went from CD to digital. And now everything is MP3s. Now everything is online. I mean, there's
Streamed,
definitely progression. Yeah, streamed. How about like video? VHS? Trying to think. VHS was kind of the
Well,
main.
there was other things people tried, but it was VHS to DVD to streaming is kind of I think how it went. Because I mean, you had like the Betamax and still other HD DVDs and all that kind of stuff. None of that. Blu-rays even didn't really catch on.
Yeah.
One of my great regrets in life is I was getting all these movies on VHS in middle school and high school, and I got Jurassic Park the day it was released on VHS. I had that classic tape, and something possessed me to give it away while I was in seminary. That would have been such an heirloom to keep on a shelf somewhere. But yeah, when I was in high school, we transitioned to DVDs, and I had this idea, man, I can put all my DVDs in this binder. And if I get this gigantic, heavy laptop computer with a built-in disk drive, I can watch my whole DVD library anywhere as long as I lug along my giant binder and everything.
Yep, it became mobile. Yeah,
man.
I remember in seminary too. I had this was a PDA. It was basically my calendar and personal digital assistant. And it was about this big.
Of course you had one. Of course you had one.
And I used it in a little stylus. And so I had that in my backpack. Then I had my cell phone, a flip phone cell phone. And then I also had a small little camera. And I remember sitting there and seeing all three. I'm like, man, wouldn't it be neat if you could like scrunch all three of these together into one thing? To have my calendar and my notes. And I had a little keyboard with it. And then I had my phone and my camera. If we could put it all into one thing. And when it happened, it's like, oh my goodness, I was brilliant.
Yeah. I was in middle school when we got internet at our home, and it was that dial-up thing where it makes the screeching noises, and it was so slow. I remember I would download J.R.R. Tolkien artwork from the internet, and it would render like one line at a time, and I'd wait for hours for it was like this wonderful experience letting the picture slowly fill the screen.
Until it got interrupted like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then, no cell phones. I remember when my dad first got a cell phone, it was amazing to think he could call anywhere with this little thing. And when I was traveling, we'd use payphones all the time. And my parents got a toll-free number so I could call home from any payphone. Without payphones and physical road atlases, I wouldn't have been able to travel like I did.
Man, I remember when my dad got a cell phone, it was a bag phone.
Yeah, those bag phones, right?
Yeah, bag phones, right? They worked great out in the prairies because their cell phone coverage was so spotty, I remember bag phones. And I remember when we got internet in Verona. See, I'm the youngest out of you guys, but I also lived in Podunk nowhere. I think except for maybe you, Bo, I probably grew up in the ruralest part of all, well, at least of you two other pastors. But the school in Verona where I went to high school, we didn't get the internet till I was in like 5th or 6th grade, and it was dial-up. And we didn't get DSL till I was in 7th grade. And I remember the jump from dial-up to DSL because the school got dedicated phone lines for their dial-up internet needs. And then we went to DSL in 7th grade. And then we figured out that the administrators at the school were not as hip with the technology as us kids were. So we used to go pirate video game software over the DSL and play that on the computer during computer lab time. And it was great. We had a constant war through high school with the guy that did all the computer stuff to see if we could figure out ways around his software blocks faster than he could put them in. So that was delightful.
I was in seminary when the first iPhone was released.
When was that? Like 2003?
7.
2000. Oh, was it 7?
6 or 7, okay. I think. Yeah.
I would have been toward the end of my college years then.
And I'm sure it was Blackberries. Were they around before?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Because I had like a BlackBerry type phone
with the little trackball on it.
Yeah, it was kind of it wasn't a BlackBerry. It was a version of the BlackBerry and had the little. It was kind of, you had the little clicky.
I recall when Obama was elected, he had to give up his BlackBerry and didn't want to do it. So, because of how handy they were, But as much as it would be fun to talk about Oregon Trail for the next hour.
Oh, yeah. My children were born into a world where the iPhone was almost 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. My children, the crappiest bit of technology they will ever know, that the worst technology they'll ever know is an iPhone 10. I mean, they aren't going to remember the 8-track. They aren't going to remember the cassette
records, like vinyl records.
Then they will never have to go buy more minutes for their phone or pay 10 cents.
Call
per
after
text.
9 o'clock on the nights and weekends because it was not, you got free minutes then or whatever.
You call or call and then have them call you back so you had more minutes.
And the other thing though too is I remember my kids too, and just blew me away. We're at Best Buy. I don't know if it was Anya or Alethea, going up to a big screen and tapping on the screen. Like tap 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 tap, trying to, this interactive, and looking at me. It's like it's not reacting to me, Dad. This whole idea of that interaction of touching a screen, that was phenomenal. I mean, that was a absolute breakthrough in how we do technology. To tap a screen and to scroll, right? Completely different.
And that's the poorest technology we'll ever know again, at least until the Third World War. But
so with
the
rapture that was supposed to happen yesterday.
That's why I was happy with Neuendorf postponing the podcast for another week. I was hoping the rapture was going to happen today.
So this brings up a good question then. So we kind of looked at a little. I mean, there's a lot of history and a lot of development, and then we kind of come to this point where we talk about the iPhone, and then Samsung followed suit. And so now everything is that screen touch kind of world where we touch the screen. I mean, it's very, very uncommon not to have that. I mean, we're so used to it. Even like I said, our kids are going up TV screens and trying to touch it. So are screens neutral? Do they shape and form us more than we think?
Can I ask a real important question first before we tackle that?
Please do.
How many of you people are iPhone people, and how many of you are on some other device?
iPhone.
And then you guys know me. I got kind of a little bit of combination of both. I got my light phone. It's a dumb phone. Oh, right here.
He had an iPhone 2 weeks ago.
No, it's been a month. So the last 3 years, I've done the majority of my time has been on like some sort of type of dumb phone. My other one I ran over, but then I use this then to supplement when I have to. I have my tablet here, so if I have to, I'll use my tablet. But I won't get into that. You guys start making fun of me, right?
That's exactly why I brought this up. But no, I here's the thing, like about. In a technical sense, I think we would say that the technology is neutral in and of itself. It's just a screen, just some pixels that display stuff. It's the content that kind of shapes it, and then the habits that the content sort of creates in us. Because like it's no more good or bad than a stick or a rock or any other thing that any human being's ever picked up and made a tool out of, right?
So to your point, it being a tool, what is this tool to? I mean. At first, to immortal or to keep our words written down, there was writing and letters and books, and then it was telegraph and telephone, and then email. And what problem are we trying to solve here?
Boredom.
Is it that simple?
It seems to be. I mean, what is my stupid iPhone? And I don't have an iPhone because I sold my soul to Samsung, not to Steve Jobs. But
you're an Android guy.
I'm a Droid guy. Yeah, I don't like iPhones. In fact, they frustrate and annoy me. I don't like them at all. But what is this device designed to do? Mostly is to entertain. It's optimized for watching videos, doing social media. I mean, it's entertainment. Theoretically, I do use it to answer emails and to keep my calendar and stuff. I touched my phone 4 times now, by the way, so I'm already exceeding my quota. But theoretically, and I do that. Like if I'm out doing shut-in calls and I get an email, I'll send off a response real quick. And people can get a hold of me in the church or whatever all the time. I always have this stupid thing on me, and it keeps my calendar. And if I didn't have that, I'd be totally lost about what I'm doing every day. But there's a lot of other stuff on there, and most of the things that are on there, I think probably most of the time that I use it is just, bored sitting somewhere. I pull it out, watch a video, read a Substack article or whatever. It's a lot of it seems geared toward just mindless entertainment.
Well, I'm seriously not trying to make a sales plug for the phone that I got here, the light phone.
Okay, then don't.
So, but it is interesting, the philosophy that you see this with some of the minimalist phones out there. The producers of this phone, they want to have just tools. So they have a phone texting, alarm, calendar, calculator, camera, music, notes, directory, and that's it. And so they don't allow social media. And so the idea that is this phone is to be used by me versus where you might have something like, an iPhone and you have certain apps on there. The certain apps that are free per se, nothing is for free. And so either, if it's free, then you're the one that they're using it from. So then the question is, are those apps and those social media things, are they using you?
Well, here's the question is, why do you need that dumb phone then?
Me?
Pastor Matt. Yep. Why do you need it?
Twofold. Number one, it keeps me more focused on communication. So I don't have, multiple means of communication. I just focus on one channel. It funnels everything. And also two, it's discipline. Because when I do pick up an iPhone, I end up going like this, scrolling. And I don't have the time to do that. And I also found that by doing this, it's curbing that feature of going like this. And so I make it really, really awkward or intentional that I have to take out my tablet here and have to intentionally go through all those steps to actually scroll. Whereas when I have this and I'm visiting with people, I'm not prone to end up scrolling in that conversation, which we see.
We're already ahead of ourselves. Is scrolling bad?
It can be. It's easy for it to be. Okay. Because how many people do you know that have like a scrolling addiction? I mean, they're just, this happens because the algorithm is designed to increase engagement. It's designed with short form videos, things that rile you up because they're going for one of two things: either that dopamine hit, you get something that gives you some pleasure, or it's going for that adrenaline hit because you get mad. And both of those things become intoxicating. And so the idea is they keep you in there and you get more ad revenue. And they get more biometric data stuff that they can sell for profit at advertising and whatnot.
What is dopamine?
It is the chemical that makes you feel good in your brain, or is associated with that.
What I heard once upon a time that we basically in life as humans we pay for calories and we pay for dopamine. I mean, if you really want to boil it down, so we pay for calories to keep energy in our body, for food, and then we pay money for dopamine. So why do we, pay to watch a certain movie, or we pay to go to a certain sporting event or X, Y, and Z? Is to get that dopamine fix, or that dopamine. I don't know however you say it. I'm not a doctor that way.
I learned about dopamine through social media use on a phone, and I've tried to pay attention to how it operates even in the real world day to day. So, for example, I really hate crabgrass, and for a while I would be searching my yard for crabgrass, and every time I saw that rosette pattern in the grass, it would fire off. Oh yeah, I got it, and then I'd go in and get rid of that crabgrass, and then I ended up dreaming about crabgrass. But whatever it is you're looking for, if it's a particular book cover, or if it's a pest that you're trying to eradicate, or whatever it might be, once you recognize that you get that dopamine hit, it rewards you. It's actually a pleasurable experience, but it can overwhelm you too. And boy, when you throw that system into an electronic format, it can be overwhelming.
So there's different ways of achieving a dopamine hit, meaning you could work hard on a project that takes you 3 weeks, and when you finally get that project done, there's a dopamine hit, and you feel good about the thing that you did and the work that you accomplished, and there's a certain sense of accomplishment or a certain sense of dopamine that comes from things that are achieved and goals that are achieved. There's also dopamine from having conversation and someone saying something that makes you feel good about yourself, for instance, right?
I wish Brad and I were here to correct me, but I don't think that the satisfaction you get from completing a project would be dopamine. The dopamine would be if you need a certain kind of nail to continue your project, and you're looking through your items and you find the nail, you get the dopamine hit upon recognizing the nail. And so then you're getting dopamine hits through the course of the project, but then and it keeps you kind of frenetic maybe. But then once you finish the project, then you got to be able to sit back and relax and say, all right, I've accomplished something. Dopamine is not about accomplishment. Dopamine is about keeping you going.
So like when I go to different towns, and every time I go to a pastor's conference, I'll disappear during lunch break because I'm going to pawn shops and I look for those, what are you looking for? And I'm looking for basically that dopamine. I'm looking for that deal. Coming to the pawn shop, like last time I was in Fargo, I was so excited. I came through and I found some wooden nunchucks, right? $15. And it's like, boom, there it is right there. I was so excited, to get those. Or get a knife, right? But when I leave the pawn shop, there's no deal, there's nothing there, then it's like there's a letdown. So I think, that dopamine is that excitement of, yep, I found it. But if you think about it, you're scrolling through and you see something that gives you a charge, right? You're like, oh my goodness, look at that, that's so cool.
Yeah,
that's the dopamine. But then once you have it, it's gone, and you want to find it again. So you're you're frantically looking for it again.
So social media exploits a natural system that serves a natural purpose for functioning in the world and piggybacks on it to use it to monetize human attention.
Yep.
And they're very good at that. Your eyes linger on a particular short form video for longer than another time. They have that thing analyzed to the nth degree, and they know exactly what it is that you see there, and they start noticing patterns. So like if I go on my Facebook Reels, I get a lot of woodworking videos because I like to watch woodworking or old tractors or like this day in history stuff. I get a lot of that stuff on there because that's what it grabs my attention, and they give me more and more and more of that. And so I start seeing less and less of other things the longer that I keep doing it. Yep. And that's how they get you. And so like I've had this happen to me. I'll pull out my phone because I got 5 minutes to kill. I'll start looking. I'll look up and it's 35 minutes later. Yep. An hour later. I mean, I've killed some ridiculous amount of time doing that instead of doing other things I ought to be doing, like, actually doing woodworking. Instead, I'm watching other people do it,
So I guess what we're hitting here is that the screen itself is, per se, could be neutral, but the way it's being used, per se, with social media, is they're exploding many times the dopamine effect to monetize it for advertising dollars, right?
I would say the screen is neutral. I would not argue that the algorithms that are employed in social media stuff are neutral. I think they're designed very purposely to keep you sucked in.
So is this, before we go any further, is this a problem with a specific generation, with a specific age group of people? No. Or is this a universal human experience, at least in our American context?
Bo, you like to go up for coffee with the farmers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I figured you would. That's kind of your MO. You ever pop in like late morning, after the early morning guys clear out, Just go in sometime to your local cafe. I've done this before here. I'll go in 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, get a cup of coffee, maybe a late breakfast or whatever, and you just watch people. Mm-hmm. And everybody will be on their phone. 75-year-old ladies, 40-year-old men, everybody, down to the youngest people. The people that work there are on their phone standing behind the counter. I mean, everybody's on one all the time. Mm-hmm. The only demographic I've found that somehow resists this is the old guys who like to tinker on cars more than they like to, play on phones. And there is some group of old guys that doesn't seem to affect because they never got into it. Mm-hmm. If they got into it, I think they would get sucked into it. But
yep. I would say that, generationally, I see that the scrolling effect that, again, we all can be sucked into. We would like to just pin it upon the youths, right, of the day. But I would say the 60, 70-year-old grandma is just as prone to do that, but she's maybe looking at knitting and, her grandchildren and other things, but the same kind of thing is happening among them as I would say the 20-year-olds. But I would say probably on a different platform, for Facebook versus Twitter versus Instagram versus Snapchat and TikTok and so forth, different venues.
Can we add another dimension to this too?
Yeah.
There's also what they call the thirst traps, right? The scantily clad. Oh, it's the scantily clad, typically young women, attractive. They don't wear much, and they do their little dances and whatever. And that's a big problem for the man folk out there. And I think the younger you are, the bigger of a problem that it gets. Because like, even though my algorithm is geared toward old tractors and woodworking and whatever else, I still get videos occasionally of girls in, skimpy outfits dancing around. And it's like, why are you giving this to me? But they're like, you're a guy, so therefore you're probably going to want to watch this, right? And I think it's just something to be aware of, because I think that stuff's not too far away from just like pornography, to be honest with you. And I think it gets the passions inflamed, and I think that it's the gateway drug to getting into some nasty, nasty stuff on the internet if you're not careful.
If I'm on my phone and I'm death scrolling and I'm just wasting time and it's been 45 minutes, eventually I do feel a disgust with myself. Like, I realize what I've done. And not to say I won't do it again, because I will, but I realize what I've done, and I have a level of disgust, and I will put down the phone at some point. Is that idea of that curb or that disgust, is that universal? Does everybody feel that, or do some people not see any form of a problem with it whatsoever? I don't know if I'm articulating that properly.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
But does everybody, is that a universal thing or no?
It was interesting. Like, again, shoot, it's like when I had this new phone that was sent to me, I had some troubles getting the SIM card to work, and it wasn't working. I went down to AT&T, went down to Verizon, and eventually had to go work with the T-Mobile SIM card to get to work. And so when I was down visiting with AT&T, they were like, "Man, that's neat to be disconnected from social media. That would be awesome." But the gal said to me at AT&T, she said, "It'll never happen." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because of finances, because of money. It'll never happen. The companies will not, AT&T, Verizon will never let it happen because there's too much money invested in it." And so I think there's a sense where if people could be free from it, many times they would, but there's also a curb of the dollar that keeps us from actually being free from it.
It's unfortunate that social media is such a big part of our lives, because on the positive side, social media is great for me keeping touch with people that live on the other end of the country. And I get interesting things that, especially like some of my pastor Facebook friends or whatever post interesting things I would have never thought about or considered because someone shares an article somewhere. That stuff's all great. See pictures of people and their kids, friends on vacation. That's all nice. But then I also see all the private opinions of people that I didn't know that they had, and these make me very angry, especially people that I thought I knew, grew up with, whatever, and you find out, wow, you think that? Really? I'm pretty much exactly the opposite of you on that issue. And that's a disconcerting thing, because we used to keep a lot of that stuff to ourselves and our close circle of friends, and now we just dump it out there on the internet, and then of course this just gets everybody upset, and then pretty soon everyone's yelling at each other, and lifelong friendships are over because of some stupid internet spat, So it's very easy to get sucked into that too.
Back to Bo's question, though, you talk about just that aspect too, Brennan, but back to Bo's question, what do you guys think on that? I mean, as far as an acknowledgement of that frustration, that disgust with, after you've been dead scrolling, do people realize that? I haven't really thought of that.
I recall something, I think this is a Wolfmueller thing. The conscience becomes calloused over the more you kind of push against it. Mm-hmm. And the more you scroll and the more often you do it, the less guilt you're going to feel about it. It's like any other habitual problem, right? Any other bad habit. The more you do it, the less bad you feel about it, right? I used to chew, okay? And the first time I bought a can of chew, I felt like I was doing something wrong. The 11,000th time I bought a can of chew, I didn't even think about it. It was just a transaction, And it's the same kind of thing here too, because I can tell when I've been too long on my phone, mostly because my wife likes to remind me. But I don't feel bad about it. And I actually get mad when she calls me out on it. And that's a sign that I've really gone down the rabbit hole, is when I want to shoot the messenger rather than admit that I've done wrong. Right. That's how seared over my calloused over my conscience gets from just kind of habitually working against it.
Right. No, that's a good point there, that when you get agitated or defensive when it's pointed out. Yeah.
So that's a sign you're too far gone.
I find that too. Like when those that I love will talk to me and they'll say something. If I'm agitated, I told myself, I got to take note of that. Why am I being agitated? If somebody that I love and that loves me is actually saying something, speaking the truth in love, not to hurt me, but they're saying with gentleness, and I find myself reacting, that's usually a sign that I have an idol. It's usually a sign that I have some sort of dysfunction that needs to be curbed and repented of.
What about the things that we're consuming? We were talking before we started this about the about the things that we see on the internet. We talk about Charlie Kirk. There's no shortage of people who watched a video of Charlie Kirk being shot. There's no shortage of.
Pause there real quick. When he was shot, I don't know about you guys. Real quick, Bo, just pause there. Mm-hmm. When you guys saw that, I was here in my office on this computer, and somebody said Charlie Kirk was shot, and I hit play, and I saw it, and there was another person with me here in the church, and we both cringed, and we just grabbed. I mean, it was like really right in your face. But continue there, Bo.
Well, my question is we have this. We have all of these things in this digital age all clawing for our attention. And they're all working for our attention and trying to steal it away from those who may need it within our vocation or within our actual sphere of influence. And then also there's no shortage of things pulling us away from truth and what's good and from the Word of God. There's no level of distraction where I could be reading my Bible instead of scrolling on a phone. And primarily what grabs our attention, what gets into a lot of algorithms and what you see is evil, a lot of evil. And that's what will get into a guy's algorithm quickest, it seems like, whether it be scantily clad or people fighting or this or that, it works its way in there and does grab our attention. That's why we watch it. But are we equipped to deal with all of that sin and evil and things that we see worldwide? I mean, what are we equipped to deal with, and why does it work for it to pull us in that direction?
I think it's a huge problem that people's deaths appear on video in social media. Praise God, I have been shielded from having to see the video of Charlie Kirk's murder. I have not seen the video of Irina Zarutska's murder. I've seen some still shots from these things, but I'm not equipped emotionally, spiritually, to have someone's death, someone's moment when that person now encounters the Creator face to face, to see that holy moment, mm-hmm. and then let it scroll by and continue about my day. I've always tried really hard not to watch video of somebody dying. I've never actually watched the footage from the Kennedy assassination all the way through. But even with that, if that was shown at school or something, it was on a screen in front of the room where that's what you're there for. And you are shown this moment of national global significance. And you know what you're getting into. Mm-hmm. I'm still not comfortable watching a man be shot and killed. But at least it was dedicated to that moment. But now people's deaths are mm-hmm. routinely captured and disseminated for consumption as tiny moments in your doom scrolling. And I think that cheapens life. I think it alternately shocks you and hardens you.
There was a young adult table talk we have at St. Paul's, and we were talking about this. And two things that I found were absolutely profound that the young adults shared with me. They said, Pastor Richard, first, when it comes to the cell phones and so forth, the one guy goes to me, he goes, I was just going to my weather app to find out whether I should pack a coat or a sweatshirt or a t-shirt. I open it up, and next thing I know, 6 people I see on the weather app, were killed because of a flood. Because I was just going there to find out whether or not I needed a coat or a t-shirt. And now all of a sudden I have that burden of dealing with 6 people who were killed in a flood in some location. And then the other person expounded on that. They said more. They were talking about the Charlie Kirk thing. They said, social media did not allow me to mourn or even process death because I'm scrolling through. Boom, I see him being shot and blood coming out. Oh my goodness. Then you're like, okay, then the video comes in and I want to learn more about what's going on. How, what's the context? I scroll up and then there's a stupid cat video. So I go from death of a Christian to a stupid cat video. And I scroll again, and then it's another thing, and then all of a sudden the next scroll before underneath it's death. And so the range of emotions that happens together, they said it's not allowing me to grieve, it's not allowing me to process, to go from death to a stupid cat video. That's such a huge stark contrast. And I just said, Lord have mercy. I didn't know what to say. I just said, Lord have mercy.
It makes us nihilists, I think.
What do you mean by that, Bradamar? Explain that.
Like, it just makes us think that this stuff is all just ridiculous. If you take something like a murder and put it in the same sort of context in which it's presented to you as a cat video, you're saying that murder is just as ridiculous as a cat video. It undermines truth. It undermines things like basic human decency, compassion, and it undermines the idea of moral outrage. And it just makes us think that nothing matters. And I don't think that's been a good move. I think one of the, everyone's trying to politicize the Charlie Kirk stuff and blame one side of the aisle or the other. But I think that the bigger problem underneath this is the just straight up evil of nihilism, that we're threatened as a culture with the way that we handle our media and the way that we disseminate our news, of treating everything like it doesn't matter, and that none of this stuff is important, and that it's all just foolish and silly. And therefore, who cares if someone gets shot, right? And I don't know how you come back from that other than by giving people Christ. I mean, shutting off the social media might be helpful, but like you said, there's so many financial interests entrenched in that. I don't think that's realistic right now.
So we had a couple questions I tossed out to you guys. We're kind of jumping all over the place to a certain degree on some of these things, but really good points here. But let me pull out this question here. So with screens, are they adding or subtracting to the human experience? That's kind of what we're hitting on right now. Can we expound on that a little bit? When it comes to screens, what are they doing with, are they additions to the human experience, or are they subtracting from the human experience? We've hit some aspects where it's good that it can actually keep us connected with friends and relatives, but then with this respect, it is definitely hurting the human experience as far as understanding just flesh and blood, right? Unpack that.
It democratizes the flow of information, you could say. It allows ideas and news to get out there that would not get out there if everything were vetted through networks. And that can be a good or bad thing, depending on your perspective.
Okay, explain that. I know what you're saying, but explain that a little bit more for our listeners. What do you mean by that?
Well, like when I grew up, everybody got your news from a printed newspaper or through local news stations or national news stations with local affiliates. And if the news producers didn't want a story to take off, they just wouldn't present the story. But now a story can go viral without any executive anywhere having made a decision on it, which means it's much easier for individual people's stories to get out there and make an impact. It's much easier for less mainstream political views to be disseminated and capture the imagination. The ideas do battle with each other on their own merits rather than being dismissed by the trusted news anchor as fringe or extreme or whatever. So in that way, I think it's kind of broken a certain stranglehold on American opinion, but that also means we're having to be more careful about a wider range of sometimes genuinely wild ideas than we ever have before.
To that same vein, you have that wild idea that one might try to express in his own community and be shut down for having that wild idea and be told that no, that's a wild idea by seeking counsel of other individuals in the community. However, when you get on the internet, you can find plenty of support for any wild idea, and some of those ideas that should die or aren't valid get legs and
are affirmed,
and are affirmed. And that's like you say about the screen is neutral, but the algorithm's not. The internet's not necessarily neutral either, meaning we can get stuck in the echo chamber of our own thoughts, or stuck in people affirming things for us that shouldn't be affirmed but should be corrected. We use people's opinion based on if we get affirmation on what we're saying as a measure of if that thing is true or not, as opposed to weighing it against the Word of God.
How many reposts, how many likes, how many hearts, right?
So if someone has the story of their transition up on Facebook, they can get all the positive affirmation they need from it, as opposed to going to their family or their local congregation to find out that they shouldn't have started down that road in the first place. But they get, and we're all guilty of this, of seeking affirmation for the choices and thoughts and ideas that we have, as opposed to measuring them against what is actually true.
So let's shift this here. What kind of boundaries and discipline are needed for Christians and churches with this technology? Boundaries and discipline. What would you think on that? Or, I mean, maybe I don't know how we say this, but like how can the curtain be pulled back on this to see the wizard behind the screen, so that we can be sober-minded, we can be alert, we can be aware?
Well, I guess I'll talk about what I do. I have taken all my social media off of my phone because it's too much of a temptation for me. So I deleted all the apps and everything. And the only social media app I have on my phone is the Meta Business Suite thing, so that I can update our church Facebook page. I don't know. I like that interface better. But if I'm on Facebook or whatever, it's because I'm sitting at my desktop or my laptop here in the office, and that's when I do it. It's still a temptation to do that rather than reading Salutary Works by Martin Luther or some other blessed saint of the church. But it does help. It puts some boundaries in there, because I found that I'm just not reliable at policing myself. They're that good at getting people, and I don't consider myself to be a particularly, weak-minded person or anything like that. It's just they are very, very good at trapping you. So I think having those kinds of boundaries are helpful. Something we do with our kids is, like, at a certain time at night, it's just our school gives out screens to the kids to use for class, because that's how they do it. But at a certain time at night, that goes down. No one touches it. We're going to talk and interact like real human beings now. That's just how we do it. So I think having those kinds of boundaries and then enforcing them, not just for your kids if you have kids, but also for yourself, is very important, because you don't want your kids to think you're a hypocrite.
Other thoughts?
I think one thing, as far as in the church, I think it's important, and especially for youth and for everyone, that truth isn't measured by how many people agree with it. That truth is found in Holy Scripture and Holy Written, and found in the person Christ. And you can get online and think that everyone believes a certain thing that you might be convicted as against, or that the Word of God speaks against. But it seems like everyone in the world believes the opposite of what you're told is true. But I think it's important to recognize that those, I don't know that the algorithms are exactly steered or working for Christian morality. Just like what Brademeyer said, they are actually geared and steered to work with your old Adam, to work with I shouldn't know if I say it. Work with your old Adam / your anatomy and the reality of how a human person is wired, and to feed that rather than to feed truth.
Well, one thing we did at St. Paul's, we've been pushing back pretty hard here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, as far as for a while they're making announcements in the sanctuary. Please turn off your cell phones for divine service today. And basically, and also too with our confirmation students, because the state of North Dakota has no longer allowing cell phones in schools. So when they come for confirmation tonight, the youth will come into the office and there's a rack. They put all their phones, they leave them, and then we go downstairs. So I requested from our Board of Christian Ed, I said, if we're going to have no cell phones during confirmation during the whole time, we need to have something to replace it. So they said, well, what do you want to replace it with? I said, a foosball table. I want a foosball table. And so we have beanbag toss and a foosball table and couches down there. So I want to actually take that time, that energy that was once devoted towards the screen, and invest it in the battle of foosball, to that interaction with each other. But then able to be able to see that we're not only taking something away, which can be perceived as being detrimental or mean. No, we're trying to give you something more. Trying to give you something more, that human interaction, that laughter with each other, to look each other in the eye, to have that joy of in flesh conversation. Because ultimately, I think really when it comes down to it, is the screen, as much as it is a blessing, the question then remains, would you rather have a conversation through the phone or a flesh and blood conversation? I think fundamentally we should be saying, I'd rather have a flesh and blood conversation with her. So like right now, we're all four of us are all together here on a screen. But if we had the means and the ability to all meet in person, I would say that'd be much more fruitful, much more fun.
We'll get to do that next week, right?
Well, I suppose we have. Man, we should record this next week.
We could record next week.
There you go.
Yeah, we could
be ahead of the game for once.
At least the three of us could when we skip out on Matt's speech.
That's right.
Richard's presenting with everybody else at the recording.
Well, I think it's critically important to stay off screens during meals. Focus on the people you're gathered with. Generally, when you're with other people, you should not be distracting yourself from those people with screens. And be task-oriented. So if my task at hand is to respond to emails, respond to emails. If my task at hand is to do sermon preparation, prepare my sermon. My task at hand is to do homebound visits, do homebound visits. Don't get lost wasting time doom scrolling.
Yeah. So don't doom scroll. That's the takeaway today, isn't it? Don't doom scroll.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a couple other questions here, and I sent you guys a text there. Do we want to open up that? Can we have about 10 minutes here? Do we want to open up a can of worms as far as the church goes?
Yes, I like having the worm can opened, so it's like a hand grenade that we drop on the floor and then we go home. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, the message that Matt sent just distracted me from everything else, and now all I can think about is what Matt told us not to talk about.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do it. All right. So I did have a question here. What about live streaming of the church? What are the benefits and problems with live streaming? What about online communion?
Oh, so you brought up the thing you told us not to bring up then, huh?
I said that. Well, let's not talk. I'm like, because we're at 52 minutes right now. 52 minutes.
Okay. Let's go for the second one first because it's easiest. It's not a thing. Don't do it. Okay? That's it.
No, it's not online communion.
Don't do it. No online communion.
It flies in the face of the meaning of communion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, meaning what? I agree with you, but what do you mean, Nudorf?
Communion is fellowship in the body and blood of Jesus. That is union in this principle of unity. And you don't do that by attempting to beam it through telecommunication.
So it's unity. It's coming together around the thing,
around the body and blood of Jesus.
No, not around the thing, in the Lord Jesus, right?
Lord Jesus. Yeah.
Communion's not a thing; it's Jesus, right?
No. I'm just saying that the idea of koinonia is coming around a thing at the center, and the thing at the center is going to be Christ and His gifts, right? But
it's not just around; it's in Christ, right? Because when we commune with Christ, we're actually fastened together in Him through the Lord's Supper.
So, but the whole idea of being internet communion, we're actually doing the opposite. We're fragmented. Mm-hmm. It's the nature of it is itself is against what communion actually is. That's what you're saying, right?
And I'm just trying to say, Richard, I wasn't disagreeing with you. I was trying to say it's even more profoundly intimate than what you were trying to say, right? It's even more. The reality you're describing is even more that, right? It's to a higher degree than sometimes we even have words to describe, right?
Right. Okay, so how about when it comes to live streaming the church and confession and absolution into a screen? How do we approach that? Because St. Paul's, we have a live stream here.
We do too.
So what do we do? How do we rationalize that? Do we justify that?
My shut-ins watch church because they can't come to church. They're physically incapable. I think that's great for them. If, I have people who occasionally are traveling and there's not a Lutheran church nearby. So, okay, that's not ideal, but it's better than nothing, I guess. But outside of sort of exceptional circumstances like that, I don't think that live streaming should be anyone's go-to. I have people who will go back and rewatch the service because they want to re-listen to the sermon, or they like to listen to a hymn that they sang again or something like that. That's fine because that's supplementing the flesh and blood interaction of God's people. It's when it replaces those things it gets to be a problem.
Yeah, I think that's the word. It should be a supplement, not a substitute.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, but is that that thought process probably is distinctly comes from a sacramental theology. Lots of other churches, which maybe they wouldn't have a sacramental theology, so that and I'm not saying that's right by any stretch of the imagination, but they would actually look to the streaming of church. So you'll have people that sit at home and say, I just watch church on TV. I don't actually go to one. But they don't see any problem with that. That comes from a lack of understanding of the gifts that God actually has to give the Christian, which unfortunately is what a lot of churches teach their congregates.
Well, it's also a misunderstanding of the idea that we are the church, right? Because we, the Christians who gather together around Christ's body, are in fact the assembly of the faithful, the church. The problem is that, I can't reduce that to one. And the whole that I am the church by myself thing is a totally unbiblical idea.
Mm-hmm.
This is, you see this, right? People say things like, I don't need the church because I am the church, or, whatever. It's not the right way to understand that.
Well, I know one of the things that we've tried to do very conscientiously here at St. Paul's with the live stream is we do it from the balcony, and we have it so the sound, we don't have the sound piped right into the sound system. We have it connected to the sound system, but we want all the sniffles, we want all the crying babies, we want all the coughing, we want all the ruckus and the noise in the church to be coming into that. And we have it up in the balcony, so it's a little bit further away. With the whole intent and purpose is that when people watch it, they want to be there. And I hear that over and over and over from our shut-ins. They said, we love watching it, but man, every time I turn, I wish I could be there. And I would say, God be praised. That is the right motive, the right context, that they realize what they're watching is good, but how much better it would be to be in person. I often think about it like this. If I could, have a phone call with my wife, that's good. But how much better would it be to be seeing her in person on a date, talking with her face to face? And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, those same shut-ins then desire the gifts that God has for them, that the 3D gifts, and that's why with our sacramental theology, we go and visit those shut-ins and give them the Lord's Supper. Yeah. Place your hand on them and forgive them of their sins. Yeah. That absolution and that the Lord's Supper are delivered for you, for them, in where they're at, that Christ comes to you where you are. Not necessarily.
We don't say that we don't.
I got to be careful how I say that, but Christ comes to you where you're at through the means of the pastor delivering it to you, not through the internet necessarily.
Yeah, we don't say here at St. Paul's, our shut-ins, they can watch us online, they're good to go. No, we go to them. We have a visitation schedule where we go see them. We do pastoral counseling to them. We give them the sacrament. We sing to them as pastors. And so, if you went the other route, you just simply say, well, they're good to go. They're watching the internet. We don't have to worry about them.
Which I find is increasingly common with pastors and churches these days. I don't want to say necessarily of, at least the brothers in the North Dakota district, but, how many times have you guys been to nursing homes and, some staff person will say, oh, we see you here all the time, and it's like this really exceptional thing. And that's really distressing that this is all more that somebody can show up and see these people. They need Christ, and they need that reminder that they haven't been forgotten by Christ or their church or their brothers and sisters in Christ or their pastor. And I don't know how you do that without actually going there at least, once a month.
Well, we've kind of captured a theme here. I mean, we're talking about, the screen, and we're saying the problems with the screen, it can be very beneficial to keep us connected with loved ones and so forth. But we said that the doom scrolling, or what do you call it, death scrolling, becomes problematic when it then takes place of what? Our flesh and blood relationships through our vocations as husband, father, worker, shoemaker, and so forth, when that actually displaces our role there. The same thing here is as well. If we were to actually approach the online service as, I don't need to go to church, then it displaces the flesh and blood connection with other Christians being in that place, receiving the sacrament alongside of them. And so then it becomes a counterfeit alternative, per se, to where we're actually intended to be, where the Lord blesses us with our connections with our other loved ones and so forth. Is that a fair way of assessing it?
Well, I think you could even say so much as like the technology on a cell phone. You have the world's knowledge available for you on that cell phone. You have everything, every word that the world's ever written is right there. But even at that, I would say that most of my theology or philosophy on life and this and that comes from experience and comes through conversation and comes, all of that iron is sharpened by other iron when we're actually together in a room having conversation or discord or going back and forth. That's where all of the things that you might find beneficial from that format. I mean, if you read all the books in the world, but you don't actually talk to anybody about it, what good did it do you? I think that the 3D relationship is still extremely valuable rather than solely the online relationship, or not valuable, but more valuable.
How do we summarize everything we've talked about so far? I mean, how do we put a nice bow on this? Other than go buy a Light Phone 3. It's perfect timing.
Well, Christ wasn't happy to leave his gifts solely as conceptual or non-3D. He uses means by which to give you the gifts that he has for you. It's something that you taste and touch and feel and see and in his word and in his sacraments. And he uses the means of water and wine and bread to achieve those things. And I think that we should not neglect those things.
Rabbi Neuendorf, summarize this.
Go ahead, Neuendorf.
We already put a bow on it.
Does the bow need to be tightened at all? Fluffed up a little bit?
Well, you say it better than I did.
I was going to say, we always need to polish up the bow, but
yeah.
I don't think I can tie it any better.
Go to church, right?
Go to church. Screens and technology and digital world can be great, but flesh and blood is even better, right?
Ground yourself in reality. Yeah.
Yep, reality.
Touch grass.
Touch grass. Yeah, I don't want to say anything. That's just perfect. Touch grass. Right. Well, that is it for Three Padres and a Shepherd. The world teaches us to get lost in the scroll, but Christ calls us to live sober-minded and disciplined in this digital world. While screens and digital devices are certainly a gift to be used, they will never replace flesh and blood relationships and the body and blood of Christ received from the church's altar. So lift up your eyes, put down the phone. You are not wired for constant digital consumption. You are created, redeemed, and sanctified by Christ for real life as you touch the grass.